if you're in the hospital and you're alive, it says ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. And if you're dead, it says "Roar." How do you want to live?
Very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Welcome back to Burning Boat Business. This show is made possible by our supporters on Patreon. So thank you. If you want to support us, you can head over there. And let's get the show started. First thing we wanted to do a quick update is that we're thinking of changing the name of the podcast because this is actually called Burning Boat Business, and it sounds a little corporate.
It sounds really boring.
And we haven't thought about that for however many, like 50 episodes.
Yeah.
And then the other day you were saying that someone had asked you what it was called.
And I said, it's called Burning Boat Business.
And,
I just saw their face like, oh, cool.
Boring business. Because it started out being something that we wanted to talk about how we were growing our company. But slowly we just talk about anything that's interesting us at the moment. So we're thinking of calling it the Burning Boat Show. Let us know what you think. If you have any comments, just let us know. Today we have a special guest. We don't have very many guests on, but today's a special one. He's the founder of No Gravity. His name's Esben Seir. He's a climbing instructor, outdoor guide, yoga instructor, personal trainer, and a mental coach. He's worked with a lot of organizations in Denmark, including the Danish Special Forces. He helped co-found Blocs Walls, which is the climbing gym that we climb at. Now you work at BetaBoulders, and I saw that you also worked with Adidas and Carlsberg and a bunch of other people, which is pretty cool. And you've coached like anyone from criminal youth to elite athletes. And you were the national coach of the Danish Youth National Team in climbing for 7 years, which is also impressive. And then we found out today that you were also a Danish ninja warrior.
The most impressive.
And the father of two. So welcome, Esben Seir. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
We've wanted to have you for a really long time because every time we've had a conversation with you, it's always been interesting. And we always get somewhere exciting. I think maybe a good place to start is how we met, which was right when I moved here, like 2 years ago. I wrote a bunch of different people in Copenhagen. I say a bunch. I wrote maybe 7 people who I thought sounded interesting based on what I was into at the moment. And climbing was something new. And I reached out to you and I found your website, and you were the only one who wrote back to me.
There you
And
go.
we ended up having a really cool chat at Blocs Walls. And since then, we've done a couple of videos together. We've climbed together. And, I think we're just good friends. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Man, awesome. And yeah, it sounds impressive when you read it up like that.
Yeah, that was impressive.
I don't really think about it that way myself because it's just something that's accumulated and happened during the road down wherever I go, which I often don't have any idea about. So
Right.
yeah. So it sounds pretty impressive, I would say. Yeah.
But like the Danish Special Forces, what's that about? Like, how do you work with them? What does that mean?
Well, it started like, I don't know, I guess around 12 years ago or something like that, where they were in a situation in Afghanistan where they were often in the mountains and had these problems about where could they maybe go over a mountain instead of going around a mountain. And it was a specific situation where they got caught in some mountain range and they couldn't really go either one way or the other. So when they got to actually the point where they were supposed to go into war, there was nothing there. It was over. So they contacted me and we started working about it specifically. And then it's just been, they call me and they ask for specific situations. For example, when there was the piracy, we were working about how to get up on a boat and down from a boat as easy as possible with as little gear as possible, with as little as possible to lose the equipment. So how can you get up easy and how can you get down easy without leaving anything? And the same with like going from rooftop to rooftop or from oil platforms and stuff like that. So it's just like they have different kind of operations, and they call me in to help them try to solve it sometimes.
Do like sessions with them and
Yes,
train them.
yes. So I coach a specific bunch of them that goes out and solves these problems in action. So try to give them as much as possible so they can do it as easy as possible, with as little gear as possible, because they have to carry it in and carry it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I contacted you the first time, the co-founder of Blocs Walls, I was like, and when you wrote me back, I was like, yes, that means I'm going to be able to make a video for Blocs Walls, maybe. So like, what role did you have in co-founding the gym?
It's a club, first of all. So nobody really founded it. It's the club that changed location, and the Kommune here in Copenhagen gave amount of money to build a new climbing gym, which been a dream for the club for many, many years. I was hired to be one of the leading parts in the club, specifically to try to build up around the route setting, the different teams, so all the sports events and stuff like that, and then building the wall from scratch was also part of what I was doing the cafe, because I've been running a place called Copenhagen Jazz House for a few years.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that briefly.
Yeah, so I had some knowledge about these things, so I was setting up the cafe area on top, and then when it opened, it was about, getting it out to the public, starting all the sports events and stuff like that.
How long does something like that take to start it?
Oh my God! It takes I think at least 1 year where it was like all in, like 24 hours.
Yeah.
So my kids, when they said let's go home, and I was like, I can't. We need to go to Blocs Walls, and they were like, yeah, exactly, we're going home.
Yeah, bring a sleeping bag.
So we slept there a lot of times because it was easier just to wake up there and then start again. Luckily, my kids love climbing, so it was a fun period. But I think it was too much when I look back at it.
Was it?
But as you say, in many businesses, I think it takes a few years before you put your feet in the sand again.
Yeah, I think there's like a statistic. I don't believe it's for the world. I think it was just for the United States, but I'm sure it transfers to other countries, that something like 90% of all businesses, no, other way around, 10% of businesses succeed after 2 years. The others don't.
Exactly.
Because it's relatively easy to just say I'm starting a business, but then after 2 years you can really see if it's doing something.
Is it actually working?
Yeah. I mean, we're still in our...
That's scary.
We just started
10%?
our second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After 2 years, I was doing all these weird kind of things. I was cleaning windows. I was cleaning the drains that runs water from the roof.
Yeah.
Drain pipes.
Drain pipes. Yeah.
It's called.
You're from the stage. Come on, guys.
I don't know.
Gutters.
Gutters.
Yeah. Now that's on the ground, isn't it?
I think it's also roof gutters.
I think
so.
drain pipes.
drain pipes.
Yeah, drain pipes.
People know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah.
But I was cleaning them and all these kind of weird jobs. And I started No Gravity in 2007.
Okay.
And I worked all these weird jobs until 2013, when I had the job at Blocs Walls.
Yeah.
And then I was working that full time and a little bit with my own on the side.
Okay.
And then first after that is when I actually started living off like teaching, coaching, and all these dreams I had. But I think the most important thing in starting a company for yourself is having a vision of what you want, and then having the guts to go all in and follow it also when it's hard times.
Yeah.
And then a portion of non-stupidity. So at some point, maybe say this is not working.
Yeah. For those people who don't know, what is No Gravity?
No Gravity is that's my third baby. It's my company. I started in 2007 with a dream of making a difference in people's lives. I wanted to have some kind of a reason of getting up in the morning, which made sense for me, but I had a hard time finding somewhere where I was inspired to go out, because I think we're super scared of really getting close to people and actually changing their lives. So I thought I would start my own company, and it was climbing. That was like the base foundation of No Gravity at that point. And my dream was having my totally own gym, and I wanted to coach and teach young people. Mm-hmm. That changed during the years. I lost it.
I think it's important though to that idea of the goal changing.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I think I go in at some point, and I wanted to make this company, and for me it was important that it described what I was climbing wise. So No Gravity came in there, but it was put together of Noah, my son. Yeah. He's called No, N-O, and Gaia is my daughter, and she's called, everybody calls her G. So No and G, and then together it becomes No Gravity. Yeah, so it's my kids and my climbing. So it's super personal for me in that way. But anyways, my dream was to create this place, and it's still some kind of a dream. I want to make a movement house where you come and you never want to leave. But business-wise, that's not very
concrete.
No, exactly. Because it's like if people never leave, they really have to buy a lot when they're there. But I want people to come and hang out and become part of the place. So a community, a place where you meet people, you can talk, you can be sad, you can be happy, you can move, you can play, you can sit, you can watch, just being part of it. You have this ownership, even though I own it. So that's part of the 15 years I was at the Jazz House, was that everybody had a feeling of they were part of it. It was their jazz house. And that really inspired me in that way to be able to create something where you feel part of it. But in acceptance of it's hard to make a company and make a business work and stuff like that, it changed in different directions. So I did a lot of rigging, where like for concerts, putting up speakers and rigging the stage, so everything in the air you were doing. And it was like the old school way, so it was like super dangerous. You were running around with no security and stuff like that, where now it's so much more organized and secure, and for my sake in many good ways. But I also miss the Wild West, just like doing it and don't giving a shit. But
the first time we filmed with you, I remember you were just climbing up the buildings without anything. You were like, "Are you filming this?" I was like, "Nope, let me get it." That makes sense.
Yeah.
What is at the core of, you said you wanted to like make a difference. So you started a company because you wanted to make a difference. Like, was there a core of something that you wanted to change in people, or more, is it a broader thing, or what do you want to change?
I think when I started, I didn't really know. But I think during a lot of teaching, I found a way and words that describe it. So two of the words I have a lot in my teaching is consciousness and awareness. And I think that's two key points in being able to change your life, is to start being aware of what is actually going on around you and what is happening inside you. And consciousness about, I don't want to tell people that they should eat less meat or drink less Coca-Cola, but I want them to stop thinking that it's a cool thing.
Right.
I want them to think about it and take a conscious choice and say, I love meat. I want my 300 grams every day, and I don't give a fuck about the environment, because that's what you're saying. So I just want you to be conscious about that choice, not just doing it. And I try to do that by inspiring, talking to people, and I do it through movement and playing, and then I stick in all these small mental things. I've been educated as a mental coach, so I try to hear a lot about our negative self-talk and the way we go around big decisions. And a big decision is, for example, stop smoking or stop drinking Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But you need to be aware and conscious before you can take that choice. And a lot of people just do it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just go to work every day.
And don't think
Yeah.
why or if they
Exactly.
even like it.
So when I talk about 8 to 4, a lot of my students are like, but you can't say you're unhappy in 8 to 4. And I'm saying, oh, yes, I can. Listen, 8 to 4, you're unhappy. But it's not the truth. I just think that we tell our kids and people there's one way.
Yeah.
You can go here in the gymnasium, you go to the university, you get a job, you get a debt, you get kids, you die.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the way. If you don't do it that way, you're fucked. So I pull a lot in the other direction. And to do that, sometimes I have to over-exaggerate. So when I say it sucks, it's just for the people that's not thinking about where it's bringing them in life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we have a lot of people that's unsatisfied, and that makes them aggressive and sad. A lot of us carry sorrow, grief in some way, or we've been rejected as children, and so on. And these things, if we just leave them, they place themselves in the body and they hurt. But then if you actually go in and grab them and accept them and work with it, it will make you a lot stronger. Because where we learn the most is in difficult times, I think. So I don't know, that's a long answer, but I think the key point is creating an awareness in daily movement praxis. Playing life.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
I would totally agree with that. I think I relate to that a lot. I had the 9 to 5 job, or more like 9 to 7 job in the States and everything. And it did just wear me down. It was not what I wanted. Although I also always had that thought of like, I would talk to other people and they would have had the same job for 5 years, 6 years. And I get antsy after like 6 months or like a year. I'd be like, I gotta fucking change jobs, or I gotta move, or I gotta do something. I'm going crazy. And it is that little bit, sometimes you want to shake somebody almost and be like, you've been here for 5 years. Wake up. What the hell are you doing here? Like, there's so many other things you could be doing. And it's frustrating sometimes as well, the idea that some people, I think, maybe just live for the weekend. They accept that 5 days out of the week are going to be shit, and they're going to be able to enjoy Friday night, Saturday, and by Sunday they're already going to be thinking about Monday, so they're not really going to enjoy Sunday. So you've got a night and a day, and that's for your life. It's such a like...
And I think that's just part of the truth, because I think actually most people start Wednesday looking forward to Friday afternoon when they get off job, and Saturday they wake up and start worrying about their meeting in on Monday again. That's what I hear a lot.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy that, stay in it, please. But just again, try to figure out what is it doing for me. Yeah. The other part is I always had a hard time working with something I don't really enjoy. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The other thing, if I work with something I don't enjoy and I'm working to put money in somebody else's pocket, it's just stupidity, if you ask me. And then a lot of people ask me, how can you make this work if you're just small and you're not big, and it's so hard? And a lot of big guns, they talk about this passive actives and how to get that. And that's the way the rich people, they don't work.
Oh, the passive income?
Yeah, the passive income.
Everybody wants a passive,
Exactly. But it's made for like 2, 3, 4, 5%. If everybody could do it, it wouldn't work, right? So we need to be 95% that goes out and carries buckets every day, water from one point to another. And then somebody made a pipeline and they can just ship the water or oil through it, and they make money while they sleep. But that's easy if you have the possibility of creating that, but that's very few people that actually have that. So how can you create something where you work? And I work a lot, but sometimes I don't work at all. and I have a lot of days and I choose myself. So the setup for me is simplicity. I try to live simple. I don't try to want too much. And that gives me a possibility of living off what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And I can do that even though there's dry periods.
I like what you said about having to exaggerate when you talk to someone, because it's so normal the way they're thinking, and that this other way seems like they haven't even thought about it before, is you almost have to overcompensate to get them to even think about it. What do you do to do that? Like, in what way do you exaggerate to kind of kick them out of their old way of thinking, or just, you know, get their brain to just quickly think about the other thing?
Depends a little bit on the person, but I can be very direct in many ways. Just say it as it is, ask the questions, and ask the questions again and again. As a mental coach, that's one thing I learned, that you can ask the right question, but it might not be the right time for the right answer. So you need to reflect over it. So if I ask you the same question again and again, at some point you might actually reflect off it in a different way, because you want me to shut up and not ask you again. So one way can just be digging into it and trying to look, what is this doing for you? Why is it making a difference for you? What makes you happy in going to work? So keep asking questions around it until they find out that they actually find happiness or good stuff in it, or they actually figure out that they don't know. Yeah. And then you can start thinking about these things.
Because I remember, like, I'd say 2.5, 3 years ago, I feel like I had some kind of change in the way I was thinking, and I just wanted everyone else to also think that way. And I would tell everyone, like, I mean, why are you working the job you're working? And it was so hard, I felt, to actually be able to talk about it with very few people wanted to hear what I was saying. And so it's something that is very interesting to me, the ability to be able to get other people to think differently than they are used to. I'm not sure that there is, you know, like you said, it depends on the person. I think that's true.
I think one way is I say a lot when I have the students. I say it's more important I'm a person that I would like to be likable. I would like most people to think I'm cool and a nice guy, and I try to be that. I know we all have bad days, and I know we not all agree on everything, but I want to when I go into a room and I have 30 students, I would love 30 students to go home and think I was a cool guy. But
well, that's what I mean, because it's like you feel uncomfortable because sometimes it can make people feel uncomfortable when you ask them those questions.
Yes, and that's my point, because I think what I figured out is I want that, but more important for me is I would rather hit one that really goes out and changes something than I go home and I played it safe and I didn't hit anybody. Yeah. And it was just another, well, that was a fine yoga class or breathing class or climbing class or whatever it was. So I would rather have 2, 3, 4 people that really goes and say, that's crazy. That's a good point. And I think passionate, that you are honest about the things you believe in, but you're not, like I say, I have a lot of experience. I've tried many things, and I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff, but I don't have a truth. I have a way. Then I can inspire you, and you can pick your way. And I think that's the only thing we can do, is be the change, lead by example. So trying to do it. So I talk about being a vegetarian, which I am. But if you, I was in Spain, and there was this little village where I know some people, and they slaughtered like their little lamb, and they made like a table in the middle of the city, and the whole city was gathered because I was there with some students, and it was a really nice setup. And I ate lamb. I'm a vegetarian. But I started becoming a vegetarian by being conscious about how they treat animals in a mass production. But if you have an animal on your own land and it's treated well. It's part of how we have been living forever.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem killing an animal. It's just the way we treat them on the way and the way we end their lives, I think, was the main problem. What I figured out was I felt a lot better by eating vegetarian. And what I also figured out is that that's one of two ways I can actually make an impact in the world.
Right.
On the environment. Because I can shut off my water, and that's a good habit, but it's not really going to change anything. But eating less meat can change things. The other is flying. I do both. I eat meat sometimes and I fly sometimes. But I try to be aware of where, how much, and why. And I think that's the key, is to inspire, to talk about these things. So I tell my story. I love telling about all these times I fucked up. And that's one thing, because we're looking for the quick fix. And I think part of becoming something or finding your way is making mistakes and learning off these mistakes. And then you get stronger and better. And then you go out and you make more mistakes and you become stronger and better. That's the cool thing about getting older, is that you find a kind of relaxed way of fucking up. It's not so important anymore. And it's actually pretty fun sometimes. But we're so scared of making mistakes. And that's part of the environment we have made, is we can't make mistakes anymore because we have to be productive and so on. Yeah. So it's not very good. But if you look at anybody that's become something, they made a lot of mistakes to get there.
It reminds me of just how one would start a business or start anything, or going back to what I was saying, that I felt like I wanted to tell everyone, like, do you actually love your job? Not just like your job, but love your job, because I feel like I do. And I want everyone else to love their job too. And that the response is often one of suddenly thinking of all the things that could go wrong, or the insecurity of what that might feel like. And I feel like we're starting to experience that a little bit, this insecurity that it's not, a monthly paycheck that comes in, that it is kind of up and down sometimes. But ultimately, I feel like it is more in our control, because who's to say that if you have a 9-to-5 job that you won't get fired or something?
Exactly.
That can still happen. At least with what we're doing, we're the ones who have to go out and get the jobs and make it work and think about what's going to happen in the future. So there is this weird balance of, it is, I guess, insecure that I can't tell the person asking me exactly where my money's going to come from in 2 months. But I'm also the one who's going to go out and figure it out. I'm not letting someone else dictate that either.
Do you feel that?
Do I feel what?
Scared? The anxiety?
Some briefly, yeah. But I feel like it's like the natural first response that slowly you start to become more aware of it, as you say, and then it's like, well, actually, it's not that scary at all, because it is totally up to me, and every time it ends up working out.
And what's wrong with scary?
I don't think anything's wrong.
No, exactly.
I think it's like you said, that the most growth happens in difficult times. Totally.
And what's the opposite of the scary?
So the opposite of scary. I
don't know, security, enjoyment.
No, because I get enjoyment out of scare stuff. So.
I would use the word comfort.
Okay,
and I would take the next step would be fear. So in between that, you become numb. And that's what I see a lot of people. You're talking about the security in their steady jobs. Mm-hmm. But what happens, if you ask me, is a lot of these people, they become numb to live in it.
Right, because you're not even questioning it.
Because it's fucking boring. Sorry, the language. We're in Denmark, so we can say fucking.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, there you go. Fuck it all.
Say more.
Exactly. Yeah. But in this, you become numb because you're scared of actually living. And what's the easiest thing It's pointing fingers of you two guys. That's not like succeeding big or me. That's a small company, right? But as soon as we get success, the same people are respect. That's so cool you believed in your dream. So cool you did it. But we need the success to be acknowledged from other people. And that's why we always have to turn inward to find the security, the happiness, and all these things. It will not come from your job. It will not come from your wife. It will not come from having a kid or another kid or a dog or whatever it is. It can only come by creating this feeling about, I am good enough right here, right now, as I am, and then living life. And part of living life is feeling it. So sometimes I use the picture of, if you're in the hospital and you're alive, it says, "Ka-chigum, ka-chigum, ka-chigum, ka-chigum." And if you're dead, it says, "Roar." How do you want to live? I want to get up on those peaks, man, right? And it's fine that I fall down sometimes. And that's where I think a lot of people stop evolving, is when they fall down, they stay there or they try to avoid it. That's why I asked, are you scared? And you say, yes, a little bit. What I jump into it. So when I'm scared, sad, mad, I try to jump into those feelings and actually feel it, because it tells me a lot, but it also makes me not so scared of coming over there.
Yeah.
Because it's fine.
I think it's like you just think about it for a second. What is it you're actually scared of? And sometimes it's like you say it out loud and then you're like, oh, that's not really that bad.
Exactly.
Or like, what's the very worst thing that can happen? I've done that multiple times. If there's something that makes me really uncomfortable, what's the absolute worst case scenario? And just thinking it through in my head, you also start to think, okay, well, what could you do if that actually happened? And you end up realizing there's a few things that you could actually do, even if the worst thing happened. The likelihood of that happening is so small anyways. So even if something bad happened, oh, it's not actually as bad as I thought.
Exactly. So everything is like it's not the problems in our lives, it's how we take the problems in our lives. So it's up to you again to make that choice, how you take and tackle all these things and get aware about it. So I think that's an important thing, is trying to feel these feelings that we are not allowed in anymore. We're talking about we should be happy all the time. But in the same way, mindfulness, for example, which is kind of a weird name for something where you're actually trying to empty out and you call it mindfulness.
Right.
But if you go into that and you use it, most of the people using it now is talking about we are optimizing towards a business, you can do more and stuff like that, where it's actually about slowing down, feeling you, and acknowledging the feelings we have inside, which we all carry around, from an alcoholic dad, from getting beat as a kid, bullied in school, whatever happened, everybody has this story. And nobody really knows what each other's story is. But if we don't know our own story, it's going to be really hard to evolve from that. So you will put a lid on it, you will become numb, and in the numbness, you live off fear, which is the most draining thing you can be in, is fear of life, fear of living. And it's usually we're scared over these kind of weird things. So I had 2 students today, and they nearly had a car accident. A bus hit their side windshield, and it was off, and it was very close for actually hitting each other. They hit each other, but nothing happened. And they were telling about it and talking in the start of the class and laughing about it. And then minutes later, we were bouldering. And in bouldering, climbing on small walls over mattresses, so you're maximum maybe 4 meters above the ground, and then there's a big, huge mattress underneath. And people were crying because they were so scared. So we go out into traffic where most people get killed, and we don't think 2 seconds about it. We're so secure and numb in the secureness that we actually sit on our phones texting, not watching the road in a vehicle that in split seconds can fuck everything up.
Crazy.
And we go into like the most secure settings and we get scared over stupid things or people screaming at a spider in Copenhagen. Right?
I do that, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
How much do you think it has to do with what other people think of you?
Oh, so much. I think first of all, we are scared of seeing ourselves, and in that we're scared of giving the true self to others. And then we think a lot about what other people, they think of us. In yoga, for example, we have a tendency of looking over our shoulder and seeing the beautiful yoga girl next to you going into a perfect split, or taking her leg and pulling it up on her head and to the other side. And I'm like, holy shit. And after you ask her, how long have you been doing yoga? That's impressive. And she says like, well, that's my second time. I'm like, fuck, I did this for 10 years. But we are created differently. So I think it's so important we stop looking at other people and saying, I want to be like that, or I want to do that. But we can get inspired by it, and then we can work towards it. But it's also something about bone structure and stuff like that in that way. So I can do things, but if my bones hit each other, I will never be able to get into a split, for example. And she might just be able to do it for the first time in her life. She never tried it before because she is hypermobile.
Yeah.
So it's so different in that way. And it is in any way. So I made my business in one way. And I think if I wrote a book about it, it would be either nobody would ever buy it because it's such a weird way, and it's not normal, and it's fucked up in so many ways. Or it would be a bestseller because it's like, okay, that's different. And sometimes we like that.
Yeah.
But I did it my way, and I learned my way, and I had time. I was not in a rush. I didn't have like a business plan I had to reach at some point. I didn't have anything that I needed to be, but there was people inspiring me. But I didn't want to be like Fitness DK. I didn't want to be like MoveNat. I didn't want to be like EduPortal. But I've stolen stuff from all of them and tried to make it mine.
That's a good point. I think within what we do, which is mostly video editing in our business, I think that's what we spend like 90% of our time is editing. It's a weird combination of, speaking of what other people think of you, is that we're trying to create videos for clients, so we want them to like it. But I'd say the wrong thing to do is to only think about what they would like and try to create that, because they might not know what they like in terms of, you could do something that you really like that they might not have seen before, and they might like it, and then you're also doing something that you like doing. So it's like we're constantly trying to create something that is something that we like, that is a little bit different, and then package it in a way that it can be accepted by the people we're working with. Exactly. And if they don't like it, then that's also okay, I think, is the hardest part to think, because you're so caught up in what if they don't like this weird thing that I'm working on. It's like, well, that's probably a good thing to find out, because then you won't work with them again. And by creating the product that you like and putting it out there, then you'll attract the people who you do want to work with.
Exactly.
But it's a little bit of I think a different way of thinking, as in it's not the first conclusion you'd reach when you're just, sitting working on it. Oh, I should make something that the client's going to like.
Exactly. But I think it's also, again, it's fear and being brave. So are you scared? Then you will probably go a way that somebody already walked the path. So it seems easier, but that's their way. So I think it's super important, like you say, that all art, all new stuff, all where we turn things upside down is coming from people that innovative and dare to go out and do something else. I think there's one thing we have to remember in that is also, why am I different? am I different just to be different?
Right.
Because that's not necessarily a good thing.
No.
But so why am I different? What is it I want to give? This I actually believe in, and then the customer loves it, and you have created something from your heart, and then you get passionate because you're doing whatever you really believe in. And I think if we really believe, if we're really passionate, I think there will always be somebody that would like your idea. So it's also, do you just want to be a company that delivers whatever anybody could deliver because you're playing it safe? I'm not saying that's a bad way, but just make the choice. Or do you want to go out and deliver it in a way where you actually believe? And in that, you're going to hurt yourself sometimes, where you're going to do something and it's like, fuck, seriously?
Right, you have to be willing to do that.
Exactly.
It's going to happen.
But that's where you're going to learn stuff. And sometimes you actually do that, but it's like, it's the same. In 2007, when I started No Gravity, I told it to one of the head people in the Danish Climbing Association. And I told him that I wanted to make this company and I wanted to live off teaching climbing and doing this. And his reaction was he just laughed hysterically. And he was like, seriously, dude? All right, okay. And when he figured out I actually meant I was going to do this, I quit my job at the Jazz House and I started the company. And he was like, but, you're 10 years too early. And that was right. I was 10 years too early. There was not enough work, but I dared believing in my dream and dared to do all these weird things around it to stay true about where I wanted to go. And this day I'm still evolving, and hopefully in 20 years I still am. And I just taught today, and I reflect a lot about what did I give? Was it the right way? Was it okay to take out half an hour and just spend it on one person because she had some issues? Or should I have given it more to the 40 other people that was there? Or is it good to go in and pluck like that? So I'm still trying to find a way that really shines through that this is how I am. But what I figure out more and more is this is how I am, kind of organized, but still in a way where it's creative, spontaneous, intuitive. I take roads to right and left, and sometimes it really works. I've done it for so many years, so I can often like save it, and it seems like a pretty reasonable idea. But sometimes I'm like, fuck, did I do that? Did I really push it that far?
Yeah.
But I have to push it over the edge sometimes to figure out where is my limits. And I think it's the same when you make movies, to be daring about it, but only because you actually think that it's a good idea.
It's better, not just different.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think awareness is a good point, because it's not always fear. Sometimes I'll be working on something and I'm like, I don't really like this, but it takes me like 3 days to realize it. I'm like, why the fuck am I editing it this way then? It makes no sense, but you just become so like used to your ways sometimes. It's not like I'm scared to try something, but you can just be like, we just got to get this video out. We just got to get this done. We'll just edit it this way.
Exactly.
And you almost impose those limits on yourself. Like the client hasn't even said, no, you need to make it this way. You've just thought yourself like, nah, they want it to be this way.
They probably won't like this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got to do it this.
Right.
But that's the negative self-talk. And we're so good at that.
So good at it.
Always talking about the things that won't work.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about the things that will work. And that's something I try in my life is I don't really worry anymore. It's not the whole truth, but a lot of the time I don't worry about stuff. I just let things happen. I don't push for work. I just let it happen. So I've let go. And I think the more you can let go and just do, I think things will come to you in that way.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. It's something that I think we keep seeing again and again, is that we will have periods where we're working on projects, but we don't necessarily have the next ones already lined up. And we both start to get a little like, like as soon as this is done, it's like there's nothing.
Yeah.
And we can start to
even
just
today
think.
I was like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of it. It's like it's right there, and it's the first thing you think. But every time, it's like it just happens naturally.
Exactly.
It's almost like as soon as we forget about it,
you get an email or an old client is like, oh, we were ready for the next round of stuff. And you're like, well,
it's weird. It's almost like a religious experience.
It is.
That's not where
really?
you should put your thought. You spend so much time worrying. It's like we're putting in the work.
Yeah.
We're putting in the effort. It's not like we're just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen. We're doing all the groundwork, all the stuff that is hard. And so it pays off.
Yeah.
And
it's
it does.
still scary.
Yeah. But there's this feeling of like, well, what if? Yeah. And that's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
What if is okay.
But what if will always be there. So if I make a decision of going on a trip, an adventure of some kind or something, there will always be like, if I leave for 3 months, is my clients going to call me again when I come back home and so on? So this little bird of doubt will always sit on your shoulder. And I think it's good because it makes you alert.
Sure, it's good.
But you just don't have
Otherwise
to be.
you'd be a
Yes,
psychopath.
exactly. It is. But you need to be. You need to be brave and still just go after that adventure and living life. And I think also it's about now, because that's where we live. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. We're here. You know right now is happening, and then dig into that, and then whatever is tomorrow, I will solve tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have been saying these things, but that's also what I bring more and more into my teaching is simplicity. It's like a lot of things have been said. It's like when somebody says this, I created this system or something like that. Yeah. Usually it's like 90 at least % of the system is stolen from somebody that's done it before at some point. But you just created something out of it, and it's fine. Yeah. And it's fine to call it mine, but you need to push these boundaries all the time in awareness.
I think there's a lot of knowledge that people have, but that's not the same as actually practicing it as well. And even if you are someone who, for example, the awareness of being present in the moment, I think everyone would agree that's a good idea. And I'm sure even you sometimes aren't aware in the present moment.
No, I don't think so.
Right. But that, you still need reminders. Like, you constantly need to be thinking about it. It's not just something that you've solved. Like, you don't just read one self-help book and you're like, this is mind-blowing, because that might be what it feels like. Like, what? This is amazing. I've never thought about this before. Now I'm invincible. Exactly. And, a week goes by and you're like, what the fuck was that chapter about again where I was supposed to feel good about? And it slowly slips away. You gotta like keep reading it, keep working on it, being aware of the things that you felt like did something for you. It's never ending.
It is, and it's a journey for life. You hopefully I will die trying to learn something. I have this dogma, which is I always have to be working on something with a beginner's mindset. So I always have to do, for now, for example, I wanted to be able to do a handstand, and my handstand is pretty good now. So I'm starting to try to walk on my hands now. Yeah. So that's the next thing. And then at some point, many, many years ago, I wasn't able, I came from football. So I was pretty stiff in many ways. So it took me many years to be able to sit in a squat. But that was one goal also, to be able to sit in a squat. And the first thing was just to sit there. The next thing was actually to rest and just stay there. So I always have these new things putting on. So trying to do that. In the same time, my coaching practice is becoming more and more about this daily effort. And that was what you were talking about, to catch up on that. But the point is that I say is we say you have to do some sports 2 or 3 times a week. So you have to go swimming or badminton or tennis or football or all these things that actually is really bad for you. And a lot of people scream here, and it's like, that is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. But in some ways it's good, but we specialize in those. So in tennis, for example, you get stronger on one side, and if you x-ray a tennis player, you will see their back
I see what you're saying.
Folding in that way. So if you carry your shoulder bag on the same side every time you take it on, you do that for 10 years, you will see your back adapting to it. That's the amazing thing about the human body, is it adapts to everything. So you can do the most fucked up things and then it will adapt. But at some point, it will say, this is so fucked up, and then it starts hurting. So what I try to give is, keep doing your 3 times a week. That's fine. But the important thing is daily movement. And the key here is you can do it in 10, 15 minutes. So it's basics, but it's not what we're looking for, because we're looking for the quick fix. So if I walk slackline, for example, at Kalvebod Brygge, sometimes we do it in the summertime, and people, they have 2 reactions. It's like, oh, that's insane, that's so cool, and stuff like that. Or the other part comes over and says, oh my God, what's the trick? That's like 10,000 hours of hard work to be able to walk this. We're looking for the quick fix. Yeah, we want to get everything fast. And things take time. So back to starting the business, it takes time to start a business up.
Yeah.
But we hear all these stories. We see all these success things on Facebook and Instagram and all this that we think, okay, so I want to do that also.
Yeah.
And then we're back to comparing. So we're comparing ourselves with somebody else's story instead of finding our own path by being inspired by these people. So I don't think we should compare, but we should inspire each other in many different ways. And then I think we should come back to an acceptance that everything you want to be good at, it's going to take time. So if you want to be good at life, you need to start thinking good about life. So I think life is super hard in many ways. It's rough. Eckhart Tolle said it in such a nice way at some point. He said, life is really hard until the moment that you acknowledge that life is really hard, then it becomes easy. So I think the daily path is a key in anything. So for me, it's like every morning I wake up and I meditate. Every morning I wake up and I breathe. Yeah. Every morning I do movement. People say, how do you have time for that? Different answers. One thing is I choose it. I'm aware, I'm conscious. A student today asked me, would you choose to sleep an hour extra or wake up and do your breath work and meditate? And I said, like 10 years ago, I would say I'd take the extra hour for sure. Anyway, give me 2 or 3 hours, I would take them all. But I figured out that no matter how tired I am, I have a better day if I get up and breathe and do my meditation. Some days I don't have time for an hour, and that's what I said to him. Some days I have 5 minutes. So I find 5 minutes and I do this, but it's important for me to do it every morning. And I have a 15-minute program that I do as a minimum.
Yeah.
And it's just something I don't compromise with, because I know even how much I hate it on the day, I know on the long term it's going to do me good. So I choose that. I hate cold. I take cold showers every day because I know how good it is for you. So it's not about what the moment is saying. It's like training hard for something that's not fun. I don't know any people that train 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week that comes home every time and it's like, yeah, that was the greatest practice. I had so much fun and I was so strong. It's like 80% of the time we come home and it's like, fuck, that sucked. I was not strong. I was not feeling good today. I was just there. Fuck this. I'm never going to do it again. And then next day you're on it again. And it's like, yeah, I'm the best. I'm so strong. It goes up and down. And I think if you can balance that in all assets in life, to figure out that it's okay to go up and down. And you're not better because you're up here than if you're down here. You're just you. So I try just to accept whatever is going on. Like I was late coming over here, so I could stress over it. But I actually chose to drive home before. It was on the way, so it was just a few minutes.
How dare you?
But I know. I shouldn't have said.
Okay.
But to dump off my dog, because then the kids could hang out with him and say to them that I was going to buy a pizza. And then I drove over here and I had a great time. I was just sitting. I didn't listen to music. I was just there. But it took me like 1 hour to get here from BetaBoulders because of the traffic.
Right.
And I see in the cars so many people being so mad, anxious, smoking, sizzling,
Yeah.
right? And all these things, because we're not used to it. And that's the point of going from one gear. You said it. We have jobs. We're up here. And then suddenly, and that's how I work also, then there's nothing. So you go from like big company, making a movie or teaching movement or whatever. And it's like, I'm a world person and everybody knows me and it's so good and your ego is boosted. And you come home and you wake up and it's Sunday and it's fine because it's Sunday. And then you wake up and it's Monday and you're like, fuck, I'm not doing anything. And everybody's working. And what about me? And we get anxious and afraid in that because we're not used to it. And I think that's where meditation and breathing comes in, because it makes you figure out and learn that it's okay just to be.
Yeah.
So when I'm sitting just still doing nothing, I'm still good enough. But we're taught that we have to create, to do something, to go to work, to be somebody in this world.
Yeah.
So it's not just enough that I'm here, but I'm fucking made out of stardust.
Yeah.
And you are too. So why shouldn't we just be able to be here? And that's enough.
This reminds me a lot of so having just had a baby, and babies cry, and this feeling that, you know, it happens every single day of holding him when he's crying, and it's been, you know, like a long time, and you just start to get all like
Sweating.
everything starts to just tense up, and then it's like as soon as you. I'm trying to read a book about Zen Buddhism called Dropping Ashes on the Buddha. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was struggling a little bit with it, but one thing that really stuck with me was when he was talking about someone had asked the Zen master about, well, what do you do about loud sounds? Like I'm trying to meditate and there's just, you know, obnoxious, like either talking or, you know, there's construction outside and I can't focus on not thinking because I'm focused on these annoying sounds. And his response was, there's no such thing as an annoying sound. There just is. It's just a sound, and what you think about it is what makes it annoying. So if you think it's an annoying sound, well, then it is to you. But if you just think about it as a sound, then it just is. And it's like holding the baby, and then you start thinking, you know, unless something's wrong with them and they're like sick and they're crying because they're in pain, that I can understand. You just keep thinking about it and not just like, oh, it's fine, but just accepting that that's what happens and that it's okay and that he's probably feeding off of your negative energy just as much as you are.
Exactly.
You calm down, it's like he stops crying.
Exactly.
It's like, oh,
exactly.
It's okay.
Everything is energy. So we are created from energy, and everything that flows through us is energy. So we all know that feeling of coming into a room and people are gathering, and suddenly the door opens and everybody just like, wow, what happened there? There's a person coming in and he just grabs that room, or she just grabs that room, right? That's energy. Or you're coming in and you create this negative vibe. All tried it also where we're somewhere, everything's good. Suddenly a person to come in and everything just turns negative, but nothing really happened, right? But it's energy. And it's the same. My dog with your baby, it's the same thing. If I have a day where I'm more irritated or something like that, he is so sensitive. Yeah. So it really looks, when I call him, he like crunches down and it looks like I beat him. Then he comes over. But when I'm happy, he just comes over. But he can just, it's not, I'm like, I see it. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, what did I say? How did I say it? Was it my voice? Did I say something different? I'm not going to do anything. It's good. I just called you. Everything's as it always is.
Yeah.
But in some way, he can feel that. And of course the baby can. So when we're not relaxed, we will put that into them. I think I say the same thing as the Buddhist story. I have a different way to say it, but I usually say there's no such thing as an irritating man. There's just the way you see a man.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I said it earlier also, it's not about the problems, it's how we take the problems. So everything is created up in our mind, and the problem is we identify with our mind and our body. So that is me. But I'm neither. The mind is going to fuck you every day, many times. You have like 80,000 thoughts or something like that every day going through the head.
Yeah.
Think about how much bullshit is running through there. And when I think about my life, I can't remember it totally, but Mark Twain said it in such a nice way, like something that I had so many problems in my life, but luckily not many came through. Right?
What a waste.
Exactly. So we think about a lot of problems. I bet we could start a totally new talk about just thinking about how many times we've been like, okay, I'm fucked here, or I didn't have money, or I didn't have any place to live, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it through it. And here we are.
Bizarre.
Yeah. So we always manage in some way, but the more we just relax in it, I think life will come to you. And I think it does that more and more to the people that actually open up for it. So it's more what you want. People with money say it's the same thing. It's not happened for me yet, but the relaxation about money have meant that they just come in a steady flow. I'm not rich in any way. I don't even have a pension, but I'm not worried about tomorrow. And also, like you said, the worst case scenario, what is that?
Yeah. I sometimes think, just to kind of, what's the right word? Sometimes I think to myself, am I going to die? Is this going to kill me? Can I die in this situation? Like, or is there any scenario where I would, lose everything I own or everything I have? I think that's never the case. I can't imagine how few people are actually faced. Well, okay, I take that back. A lot of people actually deal with those questions every day, but I certainly don't.
No, exactly.
And that's a huge,
exactly.
It's like that thought is like, it sounds ridiculous. Is editing this video gonna kill me?
Exactly.
But it actually does something when I think that thought.
And we always have to be where my problems is. I can't think about, but there's people in Africa that's not even eating, and I'm complaining about I don't have enough for 3 pizzas. We have to share 2.
Yeah.
So, but that is in the same way my problem. So I have to think about that and solve it, because I would like to give my children a full pizza so we don't share it, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. It's a bad example, but it's a problem.
But everything's relative, and I think
it
that's
is
important
relative.
too.
But it's healthy to think about that
Right.
other people out there having so much harder lives than we have.
Right.
And in that, accepting that my problems maybe could be a little smaller and not so filling in my life,
Right.
if I looked at that in that way and still took my problems as what they are. Because for me, it's like, okay, I can't stay living where I'm living, but in Denmark, Copenhagen, you will not be thrown on the street. It has to be really extreme at least, right? So the possibility is that, okay, I have to rent a room at a friend's place or something like that.
Right.
Or I get a smaller apartment that I can afford now. But is that so horrible?
Right.
It is, because we've set up this, what is right.
Expectations.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're not expecting it to happen, then it's suddenly really bad.
Yeah.
Like, a funny example with him is when the doorbell rings. That's why I asked you to text, because he'll bark like crazy. He ended up barking anyways.
Yeah.
Sometimes he just reacts strange to various people. But it's like, if I've thought about the fact that he's going to bark beforehand, it doesn't really annoy me. But if he does it and I wasn't expecting it, I'm like, shut the fuck up. And it's all just about expectations. In one scenario, I was thinking about it happening. In the other, I wasn't.
Exactly. And that's also, again, in the comfort zone, that we want to plan ourselves out of all these things. And that's what I always try to say. I have a plan until I find a new one. So I want to go over there, but I want to be open to be able to go to the right or to the left. But we are so scared of these things, so we try to expect and plan what's going to happen, and that's what brings a lot of us out of balance, is because when it doesn't go the way you want it, which it rarely does, then you have to be able to figure out to be happy on the path next to it. And I think that's important, and I think we have created expectations that's way over what we actually need, that gives us more comfort, and in the comfort we forget what actually is good for us. So I try to tell my kids sometimes, because I think often I want to say yes, and I want to be a yes person, but I often end up saying no. And I think the most important in that is trying to figure out, is it okay I'm saying no in this situation? But when I say no, I tried to explain them yesterday, because we were discussing that they were saying I was saying no to all these things. And I said, but I think a lot of parents misunderstand what love to the children is giving a lot of stuff, that saying I love you, having a big house, giving them a lot of money, whatever a lot of kids have, and spend a lot of money. Most kids more than I spend on myself. And the biggest users are girls between 13 and 20 or something like that, spending money just on all these things, just on themselves, not on food and stuff like that. But I think it's in that we have to figure out that it's not gonna solve anything for us. We're not gonna become more happy in that. We're just gonna keep building on to a expectation that we're never gonna live up to. So I think it's important for us to lower the expectations of what life is here for, and what we will get out of life. And in that, I think we will get a lot of freedom to live that life instead. But a lot of people can't do that, because all the commercials says that you have to have a kitchen the same size this apartment is. And then you have to have one room for each kid. And then they have to have an iPhone. They cost 10,000 crowns now. You have an iPad, a computer, so on. So it's impossible. I'm discussing right now we have something, confirmation.
Yeah. Confirmation.
Confirmation. It's the same in.
I was confirmed.
Yeah. So confirmation, but I got a text, and my ex said, this is going to cost 30,000 crowns. And I was like, what? And she just asked for the money, and I was like, no, it's not going to cost that. I'm not going to give 30,000 crowns to a 14-year-old girl that's going to have a party one day. My son had one, and we spent 4,000 crowns or something like that. Yeah. Had a great day. But the expectations are so high. Yeah. The next thing, she sent me a Gallup undersøgelse. It's like statistics. So Gallup, they check out these things, and they said like gennemsnitlig, on average, confirmation in Denmark, it cost between 30 and 30,000 crowns. So see, that's what it should be. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what the statistics say. It's like insane to spend that amount of money. Yeah. So now we have like big issues about that, because I'm really sure that it's right to say that's too much money. But like I said to my kids, it's so hard, because everybody else of the normal people say that's the way. So it seems like that's the only thing. Like my son, he thinks he has to go to the gymnasium, university, as we talked in the beginning about. So we have these stories about this is the only way, this is the right thing. And I think that most people actually know what is right and wrong. But we forget in the numbness to feel it and live it. So if you ask people, when you have used some kind of plastic, do you just throw it on the street? Ask anybody. I would say if you ask 100 people, I would say 100 people would say, no, I don't. Mm-hmm. And it's all over. Yeah. Right? Exactly. So we know it's wrong, but it's like, fuck, no garbage can, I'm just going to throw it over there. but you had a full pack before, and now it's empty. So it's filling and weighing a lot less, but still we won't carry it away. We'll just leave it somewhere, right? We know it's wrong, but we do it anyway. So I think, again, we need to be conscious about these things and be brave, like we were talking about, going our own way, believing in what we do. And if we believe it and are passionate, I think people will follow.
I
agree.
The comparison thing is really interesting because I think I do that a lot. And I finally said, like, I just can't be on Instagram. It just affects me in such a negative way. And I think it's a bit of a paradox because there's the want to share things, especially as a company, and to grow as a company.
Yes.
And then that exact thing that affects me negatively of seeing what other people are doing. And then it's almost unconscious. I don't think I see it and feel bad right away, but it's sort of this like building thing that makes you feel bad over time. Yep. And I think also I heard this interesting thing that it's like we used to live in tribes of, I don't know, 100, 120 people or whatever, max, right? Yeah. So you would be the best at something in your tribe. Yeah. And now we compare ourselves to 7 billion people. Yeah. So you're never going to be the best at fucking anything. Well, so you could try to, like, I'm going to start learning to do handstands. And I watch people do handstands and then some guy can fucking like jump down the stairs. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not even going to start trying. Like, I'm never going to get anywhere with it. So I think, I've definitely struggled with that. Do you still use social media and stuff and learn to cope with it in a way, or do you cut things out of your life? Because I think I'm more just the like, I'll just cut that out. I'll just stop doing that.
I think it's. I really agree that it's a hard thing because a lot of the things I try to inspire to is also shutting down your phone. Yeah. Spending less time on it. The so me is giving such a negative or actually maybe such a positive picture that life actually becomes negative afterwards because it seems like everybody's doing better than me. Yeah. But in the same way, it's a way to be seen as a small individual company. So I've chosen just to have a profile with my work, and I put up things that I think is relevant to that. Yeah. And I don't look at the other ones. I follow some people to be inspired. Yeah. But I think again a lot of my meditation is grounded in gratitude. I try really. It started like I think 5-6 years ago, where I really was thinking about gratitude. Thinking about how lucky I am, all these good things. So now, my kids asked why, but now when I eat, every time I eat, I close my eyes and I say thank you for different things in my life. And it's just become a thing because first of all, I become aware of I'm going to eat now. So I slow down and I get into my parasympathetic system, where it's a lot better instead of eating stressed in the sympathetic system. Second of all, I think when you get aware of all these things and I have a gratitude towards it, then it's not so important that there's somebody that's better than me, but I can strive of becoming the best me. Right. And I think I've found some kind of a satisfaction on that just me is actually cool enough, and I'm really good at a lot of things, but then I can watch Ido Portal and my handstand sucks. So it can turn so fast. Yeah, exactly. But instead of watching him and thinking badly about me, I watch him and I get inspired to say, oh, that was a cool thing. I could try to play with that. Yeah. Or I listen to his mindset. So it's like Ido Portal versus Irvan Likor, the Nat Move guy. So I think Ido Portal is more for the daily practitioner that wants to put in 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, 7 days a week, the next 10 years of your life, and become a movement expert in that way. So I think it's a more difficult level to enter. You really have to be committed. Where Irvan Likor is more basic, simple stuff that will do good for you in daily life. So it's just a choice. But if you see a video of urban decor, it can be very inspiring. But Ido Portals is more Instagram worthy. Makes sense? So I think it's just about, again, plugging out and being inspired about these people, not thinking about you want to do the same thing. But if I watch, or you watch a guy doing a handstand, instead of thinking I'll never get that good, then you can think, how good can I get working this? But it's, again, the question, why do you want to do the handstand? Do you want to do it when people are watching because your ego is feeling better there? Yeah. Or would you do this handstand just by yourself and don't giving a shit about whatever other people thinks?
Right.
So a lot of people have, through my life, called me that I brag a lot in blærerøv.
Yeah.
So I'm bragging a lot. I'm showing off and stuff like that.
Yeah, show off is probably the
show
direction.
off.
Yeah.
Right? I always say, what? It's passionate. I'm playing. I don't give a flying fuck if you're watching. Just turn around and look that way. I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Right? So I do it. My handstand is for me. So in the beginning, I had to hear a lot of comments about, oh, you old man, you'll never get that done. You'll never get to that, or that looks hard. And how long have you been working on that handstand? And it actually took me almost a year to get up and really stand on hands. So because of the age, we learn slower. But in the patience, I'm good at it now. Yeah. So now I can take my students and actually show them how to learn to do a handstand, and I can start do stuff on it. But I'll never get to the point where Ido Portal is. But that was not the point.
Yeah.
It was playing with it. It was learning a new skill. So a lot of people think about, for example, I want to go into the split, or I want to do a one-arm pull-up. Why? It's just a skill to show off. It's not something, a very tiny portion of people needs it, right? The rest of it, it's like your life is not going to get better or worse by doing a split.
I think for me, if you ask me that, because I think at one point I did write down I want to be able to do a one-arm pull-up. I think the lure of it for me would be the challenge of being able to go from not being able to do it to doing it. A feeling of constant improvement and progress. That's very satisfying to me.
But I have never talked against doing a one-arm pull-up. I did it also and worked my way through it, and I did, and I made it, and it was so much hard work that I figured out there was other places where I would evolve more as a climber.
That's fair enough.
Instead of doing one-arm pull-ups.
Yeah.
So after a short while, I couldn't do a one-arm pull-up anymore, right? But now I make videos where I hang and I do one-arm pull-ups, but I'm actually standing on a ball. Instagram, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that is a good philosophy, if you call it that to do something almost purely for the challenge of it, kind of to see what you can do, or to see if you're capable of it, or to feel like, even like some things I'll think I can't do that, and as soon as I have that thought, it's almost like another part of me is like, ooh, but I want to see if I can. And the challenge itself is everything.
Yep.
I find that with running, for example.
I think it's great in many ways, but I would go in, and first of all, I would try to figure out, is it my ego that wants this? And if it is, why do I want to do that? So again, back to consciousness and awareness is, why am I going to spend so much time being away from my kid, trying to do this triathlon where I'm running a lot, training maybe 20, 25 hours a week or something like that.
This is a perfect example because I'm training for one.
There you go. So figuring out, why am I going to spend time away from my child? Why am I not going to be part of it with my wife or girlfriend? Why am I putting this into my life? Is it something that's important to me? Yes or no?
Right. It's got to be a really big yes.
If it's important,
yeah.
Why? What is it that makes it so important? And what will it give you? And is the price worth paying for you and the family? figuring that out, because then goals are a fine thing. I try with athletes, I try not to work too much with goals.
Yeah.
I would rather call them intentions, because I think a lot of things, it doesn't have to be that way, but I think when you set a goal, a big point is getting to the goal and then finishing that and doing it. Then I'm satisfied. If I get here and the day before the run I get an injury, so I can't join in, everything has been fucked up, and you come home and you're pissed off and everything. But if I have an intention to do this, and I get to here and this happens, the way has been the important.
Right.
The learning, the progress, the hard work I put into it, the sacrifices, and all these things has been meaningful itself. So I think that's the question to ask. Then I think it's a fine philosophy. So I think it's all about these, again, taking decisions. We have a tendency of, in all situations, we have two choices. We can react, or we can, in Danish it's called reaktion eller agere. Agere.
Reaction, or it's like having a reaction.
Reaction.
It's like when, how can I explain this? It's
We can react
in
or
a situation we can react from our feelings, or we can do a reaction out of a calm situation where you're thinking about, why am I doing this?
I see.
And often we just react because we have the autonomic nervous system, and we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. I shortly talked about it, but we live and breathe a lot in the sympathetic. That's why we get stress, anxiety, and depression and all these things nowadays, because it's a good system. Stress is not a negative thing. We made it a negative thing. So it's made for fight, flight, so I need to react in something, but it's not good for me to stay there. That's the short version. I want to go down in the parasympathetic. So if I'm in the sympathetic, it's about fucking surviving the lion attacking me, right? So I'll just react. I'll run, I'll fight, I'll do whatever to survive. But if I take my decisions from the parasympathetic system, I will take it out from control and thought-wise figuring out how I can do this. And for example, for making such a kind of decision should come from the parasympathetic system. Make sense?
Just going back to the idea of, so if you train for something and then the day before the race you can't because of an injury, pretty much that happened. So I was training for an Ironman, and I trained for probably like 11 months, and then the final 3 months very intensely. So 11 months I was remaining fit, and then the last 3 months I really kind of amped everything up. So not 25 hours a week, but like 15, 16 hours a week. And then I played basketball, and I like redid a knee injury that I got from falling off the climbing wall like a year earlier. And so I wasn't able to do the Ironman. And I was faced with that problem of, well, was I doing it for the right reasons? And I was. I was very much like, I was almost waiting for myself to get really upset and really down, almost depressed about it. But it never really happened. And I kept thinking that all those hours that I was training were, I'd do it all again.
There you go.
I get so much out of the training, and I'm so much more present in my life after I've done it. In the same way that you say you try to do an hour of breathing every morning. It's very similar for me.
Exactly.
And then there's this added element of the challenge that I really feel like I thrive off of, and it's something that I want to pass on to my son, which is, you don't know what you're capable of. And I just kind of want to keep doing things that I don't know if I'm capable of. And I feel like you learn so much through that, because it is, I think, the most difficult thing is to try and do things that you don't think you can do.
And so I find it so for me, I feel like I've answered that question. And
Yes.
So I'm going to start training for another one now.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah.
So and again, I think that's the point. It's the process.
Yeah, it's 100% the process.
And then it's fine because, of course, most people that's like one step from the goal, and then it's not
It's
success.
like, oh my God.
Of course, it sucks, and that's
There's a part of it, I guess.
Yeah, of course, and it's fine. It doesn't have to be. Fuck yeah! I got injured the day before the run, man. Right? Yeah. so
now I can prove that I did it for the right reasons.
Exactly, right? But of course that sucks. But the point is, are you enjoying it on the way?
Right.
Also because we can die on the way. So it would be kind of good if you had this pretty cleared out before.
I know,
right?
yeah.
And that's also why a big point for me that's important to get in here is the awareness, the consciousness, but the daily practice of these things that you want to do better. And then a shout out to the quick fixes. We need to get them away and come back to working for the things we want in life. And then being brave about being you as a person, that we are all unique. And I think it's super important to allow the individual to bloom in society, but we're getting too individual. We have to think about these groups you were talking about. We were living in smaller communities. It's in so many ways the right way for us to live, not clutched up in big cities in this way where we get anonymous and, like you said, we'll never be the best at anything. Yeah. Is that important? No, but it's so much easier to finding your way in it when you don't have to compare with 7 million other people, right?
I think so.
And we have a tendency of seeing all these people that has these crazy lives and then forgetting a little bit about all these people that has a lot worse lives than we have.
Yeah.
Right? So we only see what's better.
Yeah.
But that's back to the self-talk, right? So we have the tendency of all the time talking ourselves down in small situations. Most of the time when I coach people mentally, if it's athletes or just normal people or CEOs or whatever, a lot of the things when we start talking, they don't even notice all these small words, right? Are you going to be able to do that? It looks a little hard. Can you maybe reach that if you put your foot up? No, that's impossible. Right? So just all these things that...
The words you use.
Yes, and it replants in the body and makes it impossible. So it's the same if you want a business, if you're always like, this is never going to work and stuff like that. All right, figure out a better business plan, or as me, be patient, and then at some point it might work, or be stupid enough and just go through it. And then wherever you end up, that's where you end up.
And most of the words you use are internal.
Yes.
So you're using words when you're thinking to yourself.
Exactly. So when I hear this once or twice from a person, I know they're saying this 10 or 20 times.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's so hard. So one of the things we were talking about in the beginning is also when I say some of these things to people, like you said, changing or getting them to be aware of it. Yeah. Often I have the guy that owns one of the places where I work, like he says, every time people are talking about what did they get out of a period working with me, for example, and most of his groups, there's always a few people saying he was so fucked up. The first 2-3 times, I just wanted to run screaming away. But they turn, because what I say is often true, because I work with it, I'm good at reading people in that way. But when we hear these things, it hurts us. Mess, you're really bad at getting up at night when your son is crying. No, I'm not. I get up in night times. And your reaction is that's not true, especially when it is true. We have a tendency of like backing off it and trying to, and then we have to yes, exactly. You go into like, I'm a good dad. She's saying I'm not. So I think it's super important to be aware of all these things that's going on and all these 80,000 thoughts that goes through your head, and in that you get these self-talk that's negative often because we're just not satisfied in life and with ourselves. And the point is, you need to train that. That's not just going to happen, especially not in this world. So you need to train it as well as a one-arm pull-up, or you want to do your triathlon. You need to train focus. You need to train the way to tackle situations. You need to train happiness. You need to train to tackle hard stuff in life. That's why when you're a teenager, it's like, Dad, this happened, and it's crazy, and I'm like the only teenager experiencing this. Oh no, my son, I've been there, and all my friends have been there. But we think it's something unique for us every time we're in a hard situation. But everybody is there at some point. Some people daily, but they put a facade up and try to show that they're good in life. So the more I've been working with breath coaching, I'm so overwhelmed of how fast people just break down, how much sorrow we carry around, how much things is locked up. I had a breath coaching session with this like big strong guy, and we were actually going to do some movement, and I could just see he was locked up a bit. So I loosened up his breathing a little bit with some pressure points, and then we started doing these breath sessions, and in 12 minutes he was crying his heart out. Things from his childhood that he didn't even remember, but he locked up in his body, and still this day is reacting out from. But we're just not aware about all these things. And that's why I think it's so important to inspire about awareness, consciousness, to become more honest and true about yourself. And for me, it's just done through movement. Inner movement, outer movement, breathing, all these things connecting. So people ask me what I am, and I've always answered, I'm a climber. That's how I defined myself. But I don't climb that much anymore. It's not all I do. Everything is not set up about the climbing, so I'm not just a climber anymore. But I just use a lot of things from life. I have education in some things, and some things I just have experience. And I figured out I was good at these things, so I try to help people. I just go my way. But I listen to you guys when you evaluate or you criticize me or something like that. And it hurts when some people say it's too, it's not aligned to what you said it would be, or you're not doing that, or you should do it this way, then you would reach more people, or you could become bigger. But again, it's not for me about becoming bigger. It's about reaching the people I work with. So I only work with small groups because I want to be conscious and I want to look people in the eye. And if I have a group of 40 people, I can't. And I just had a group of 40 people today. But that's where sometimes you have to find a way, because that's going to pay a lot of sessions where I only have 2 people paying. That's why yoga studios, they fill them up. So you're actually doing yoga almost inside some other person's shirt because we're standing so close, because it's 240 crowns extra. And then I can put 2,000 crowns in my pocket and I can give the 240 crowns to the teacher. Instead of actually thinking about what we're giving in yoga, for example, is a space where you can go inward and find you. So I think all these values is something we need to find in ourselves again and spread out into the world. So that's my mission, I think.
Speaking of other people telling you that you could do it this way and you could reach more people, I was just about to say that you should do a podcast or something, because you, I don't know, you have a lot to say,
Yeah, I have so.
and it's
Yeah,
very
no.
interesting to listen to. Yeah, I feel like maybe it's a natural thing is just speaking on the go and not really having, like a set. This is what I'm going to talk about.
Very true. And again, a thing that if I was negative minded would be a thing that I would criticize myself for, and I have done. I should be more organized and so on. But when I think back to my schoolwork, it was like at 12 o'clock Friday or Thursday night, I figure out, oh shit, we have this, we have to make this thing for school tomorrow. So I was sitting all night and I went directly into school and I delivered, and usually it went pretty well. So I never prepared in that way. I prepare teachings now, but I figured out that I'm a lot better if I have a plan, but in that plan it's just overall so I can be intuitive. So I can grab people where they are. Because when you meet life or a group of people teaching, or you get it out to a customer or something like that, I don't think you can plan it and put it into boxes, because then you just have something, this is how it is again. Right. Instead of seeing the company and saying, oh, that would be a good thing to put in, because we see that. And the company might not even be aware of that's an asset, right? So I think that's just something that I've found a way in it. But I still try to figure out how I can organize it more. But every time I really organize something, it's people just come and say, yeah, it was good, but missing. Right. Because I don't get me into it. I don't get the passion into it. I don't get to just turn right. So also if we're talking about something, and I've done it many times already now, when we're talking about something and we end up over here.
Yeah, but that's how it is.
Exactly.
It's better.
It is. Depending on what you want, but it's more exciting that way. Maybe we should do a podcast together.
Well, you're welcome as often as you like.
The No Gravity Burning Boat Show.
Well, we could keep talking.
Yeah, forever.
But
let's do it another day.
Yeah,
we can try to find new ways or some specific thing.
I mean, we're always trying to think of how to make this a more interesting show.
Yeah.
And I think for right now, we want to focus on having other people on.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more interesting, and we also get to explore our own ideas while explaining it to someone who might not know them, because we're so used to talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
That I know what he's thinking to an extent. Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully not all the time.
It's like a good practice to try and explain it kind of from the beginning a little bit. And
it is.
It's always interesting to hear what other people think.
Exactly.
But thank you so much for coming on. And if you want to hear more about Esben, you can follow him on Instagram at nogravitydeco without any spaces, just like that, or on your website nogravity.deco.
And co is K in English.
Yeah, sorry, DK.
Yeah, for the people.
And I would say most of it actually, because it's like my daughter is always teasing me about my Instagram, because there's like a picture up every month or something like that. Then I need to put something on Instagram. And I always have a hard time, because it's me doing a handstand or saying, look, I can make you do this if I coach you. And I hate it. So most of my things, events and stuff like that, where it's about what I've been doing or upcoming events, is on No Gravity Climbing and Movement by Esben Seir on Facebook. So that's the most update. My website is more like a card where you can go in and just see some prizes and contact and stuff like that. There's pictures. There's a small blog.
Video.
There's videos. Yeah, by Burning Boat. It's awesome. Check it out. So, yeah.
Cool.
But it's been awesome being here. Thank you for asking me. I would love to come back. And
hell yeah.
Yeah. We'll do it again.
Cool.
Nice.
That'll be cool.
And we will see you guys next week
on Burning Boat.
On the Burning Boat Show. God damn it.